Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. As you can see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today. It's Friday, gonna get down on Friday. Almost customary, I suppose, to sing that every Friday. So I'm just like adjusting my seating position. I was like, what on earth is my seating position right now? Let's have proper posture, I say, while sort of sitting legs crossed on my chair, which I guess isn't really proper posture. Okay, let's sit properly, 90-degree legs or whatever, back. Well, isn't it like you're meant to have like your chair like 45 degrees backwards, which seems like too far backwards in my opinion, but I don't know, I'm not an ergonomics researcher. But anyway, hello everyone. Right now in Fawnhollow, it's 6:12 p.m. on Friday, August 11th, 2023. Apparently I can't read. Shooting stars. Oh. So what should we talk about? What's sort of a buzz, I suppose, right now? I mean, I feel like right now the main buzz is very much about Baldur's Gate, which you might be like, hey, darling, are you going to play Baldur's Gate? You like D&D, right? And you've played Divinity Original Sin 2. I can't remember if I've actually spoken about this or not, but yes, I will be playing it. But on Sunday is when me and my friends have organised to actually play through. Well, I don't know how much we're going to play through, but, probably a sizable amount because we'll be very much riding the hype. I don't know how often we'll be playing that, so I guess it's kind of like an actual D&D campaign in that regard. But yeah, I don't remember what I was going to say about this. I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good time. I was also thinking about what class I want to play. I mean, I can vocalize my thoughts here, to be honest. Like, I suppose it's like for class picking roles, I suppose, and well, it kind of applies to like any RPG. It's also interesting to think like how my preference in classes have changed, I suppose, over years. Because I actually started playing MMOs like very, very young. I think my first MMORPG was one I played in primary school, and it was called Windslayer, and it was basically MapleStory, but a rip-off of MapleStory, kind of. Oh, I shouldn't say a rip-off, because that makes it sound like it's trying to like be a MapleStory like knockoff version, but I suppose it's more like a clone of MapleStory, like, or inspired in the same genre. MapleStory got successful, clones are born from it, as is the case of most popular genres. I might have actually played MapleStory before I played Windslayer, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Windslayer was the one I played more of, to be honest, mainly because I think I got very lost in MapleStory. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. But Windslayer was much more straightforward, to be perfectly honest. But as I say, it's very interesting to see how my class choices, I suppose, have changed. Because back then, I must have been like 8 or 9 or 10, so somewhere in that range. Definitely, probably I was too young to be really playing computer games as often as I was. But no, I probably wasn't 8. I was probably around 9 or 10 is my guess. And you might be like, oh, you didn't play RuneScape or something as your first MMORPG? I probably did. The thing is, I don't remember anything about RuneScape because I didn't understand what I was doing. I wasn't quite like at the level of game acumen to really understand how to play a game properly. So I was very much I was very much sort of like winging it as I went. But yeah, I forgot what I was going to say about this. What was I going to say about this? Oh yeah, so back then, like, the first class I played was, I think it was a rogue, or like assassin-esque sort of class. The only thing I really remember is the fact that PvP was a big part of the Windslayer thing, is from what I remember. As you went invisible, you stuck up on someone, you lead with the stunning strike when you go light jab, and then you end with a poison strike when you run away, and that was your entire combo as a rogue. I still remember that to this day for no reason. I also remember the healing in that game was very weird. It was just like the healers had both normal heals and mana heals, and they've like fired them in a line skill shot. But anyway, I played. Yeah, I played a rogue as my sort of like first class, which is interesting because nowadays, I mean, I don't have anything against a sort of roguish class. Like, I mean, if I suppose we'll sort of like rank my affinity with the D&D classes, I suppose, later, which is weird to say because I've not played most of the classes. Like, despite the fact I do like D&D quite a lot and I have a lot of knowledge about it, I've only really played like a few classes, like not many. Yeah, so I played a rogue. I don't remember. And then I played Maple Story, I think, next. Or maybe I resumed playing Maple Story, while also simultaneously playing a different character in Wednesday, I think. No, I think the second character in Wednesday came later. But in Maple Story, I remember I played a mage, like a wizard. I don't remember exactly which one. I think I was becoming an elementalist, if that's a thing. It's been ages since I played Maple Story, so I don't really remember the classes all too well. But it was something along those lines. Okay, we got stuff to sell. Okay, so pick up weeds on the island. Pick up weeds on the island. Draw that into your heart. Carve it into your soul, in the infamous words of a very famous bird. Yeah, so I played a mage back then, and that makes sense to me, because I very much always had an affinity, I suppose, for the magical. Or preferred the magical, I suppose, rather than being, you know, that the big person with like a swinging around a giant axe or that sort of thing. So I played a mage elementalist, I don't know, and it felt like, probably it fits my sort of like nerdy stereotype back then. And then I actually, did I make a second Wednesday character then? I did make a second Wednesday character of a priest. I don't remember how much I played them, to be honest, but I do remember making one at least, or a cleric or whatever it's called in that game. But then my next big MMORPG I played was one called Grand Fantasia, and that's probably been the biggest MMORPG I've played throughout my history. I think Grand Fantasia is still ongoing, so you can still like look it up and that sort of thing. But I remember. I mean, Grand Fantasia is like an okay MMORPG as far as MMORPGs go. I think the combat is not particularly exhilarating. In any sense of a word, but it has one of my favorite systems is the fact that its crafting system is basically like a load of Tamagotchis. It's called a sprite system. You basically have these pet Tamagotchis, and they are the ones which like make your make the best equipment and armor and that sort of thing. There's also like alternatives, so you can get like PvP armor, that sort of thing, but normally the PvP armor tends to be less utility based, while the sprite based armor has like cool utility functions. And I actually, genuinely, I love that part of the MMORPG. I love looking after my sprites, you know, like feeding them, you know, getting them to like collect things and like accruing the stuff you need to eventually like craft the items, the sprite like armor and weapons that you needed. I will say it was in classic MMORPG sort of fashion, where instead of having like, once you get what you needed, you can just craft the things. There was a percentage chance of crafting it, and by the time you got to like the later levels, like level 50 is not even that late a level, when you start unlocking like the yellow weaponry, you basically had like a tiny chance to actually craft the weapon, because they want you to buy the in-game microtransactions where you use an item and it guarantees the next craft you do is successful. That's why, and you probably could have seen that coming a mile away, but nevertheless I still tried to craft those legendary weapons without the items nonetheless. So that was a lot of grinding those dungeons from what I remember. Oh my god, so many times I ran Mutated Prairie Cave. But yeah, I did like that game. Anyway, sorry, I forgot class choice is what I was talking about. When I played it, the first time I played a sage, which is basically a druid. They can shapeshift. They were sort of like a jack of all trades, but they were one of the two healers in the game. So most of the time they were a healer. Like you could shapeshift into, your base human form was the healing form, which is the one like 90% of the time you would be, because healers are in high demand normally in MMORPGs. I don't know if that's the case anymore, but certainly back then it was. You could shapeshift into a wolf, which was basically like the melee DPS. It was like an assassin. It could stealth. It could jump out and stun and basically eviscerate you very quickly. I also remember that that if you did that build, you had to dual wield single-handed hammers, because hammers had a chance to like stun on auto attack, so there was a chance you could like just chain stun your enemy. And strong in PvP from what I recall. And then you had what else? Then you could shapeshift into a bird, and bird was basically the mage caster, and that was the one I used most often. I think apart from the human healing form, I shapeshift into a bird. I double up as a mage, which can heal, I suppose, here and there, which is, nice. Although you don't have that many skills, from what I remember. You don't have very good AoE, like the other classes, from what I recall. And then the final one you could transform into was a gorilla, which is basically the tank. Now, the problem is, from what I remember, I think the sage class couldn't... I forgot to get weeds tonight. Oh, well, whatever. Let's go get some coconuts to sell. I remember say like all of the normal tanking classes could equip shields, but I don't think a sage could. So the only way that you were tank is you just had like a big health pool, but you know, it was playing a very dangerous game because you weren't genuinely that tanky from what I recall. So it was basically, theoretically you were a jack of all trades, master of none, but really you were a jack of like healing, and then some, if you were really invested in your build, you could be the melee DPS or the mage DPS from what I recall. But yeah, again, I probably wasn't that great at the game. I was like 11 or 12 I think when I started playing it. So certainly my min-maxing capabilities were not quite up to scratch. But yeah, I played that. But then I later made another character, which I took to even further, because that character I think I took to like level 50 or something when I got bored. I played an actual cleric or prophet or priest or whatever you want to call it in that game, who were just like dedicated on healing. And I preferred that role much more often. Like, it should be no surprise, I tend to prefer supportive roles. I talk about this, spoken about this before. You know, I think I spoke about this when the character Yumi was released in League of Legends, which is crazy to think about, because that was ages ago, I think years ago now. Where theoretically Yumi is like my ideal character, because that is my favourite thing to do in any game. Is a lot of people would like to play the game and be like, yeah, I want to be the carry, I want to be the one doing the damage, I want to, you know, solo the entire team. That's like the sort of fantasy I think a lot of people want to fulfill when they play games. But for me personally, I'm like, I don't want to be that. I want to be the person enabling that. Nothing would bring me more joy, I suppose, than, you know, being the one to like give you a million buffs and then see you go solo the entire team or something because of like the buffs I gave you. Like that's my sort of like not high-end fantasy, my gaming fantasy, I suppose. No, like, it's a bit annoying that fantasy is a word used for both of these aspects, but you know, whatever. So yeah, unsurprisingly, I like playing supportive classes. So I played that. Other MMORPGs I played, I didn't play them nearly as long. I played a game called Legends of Martial Arts, actually. That's like a rare exception where I played a DPS character. It was like, I think it was called a shifter, where you shapeshifted. I remember you shapeshifted basically into like this werewolf character who was like hot pink for some reason. Actually, there was a lot of like innuendo stuff I remember from that game, because I remember all the skills were very innuendo-y looking back on it. I have no clue why. But anyway, Legends of Martial Arts, what a strange game that was. I don't think like anyone's ever heard of it, but I played that that class, a shapeshifter class. They're basically like a barbarian, I think, from what I recall, kind of. What other ones have I played? I have played a bit of WoW. I played a priest. I think it's called like Disc Priest or whatever was the one I intended to be, like a full-on supportive thing. I didn't play that very long though, to be honest. I also played a bit of WildStar. You might be like, if you ever know, you might be like, whoa, WildStar, that's a game I haven't heard for ages. Man, what an absolute disastrous release and everything. What an absolute like raging inferno, I suppose, WildStar was. But what was genuinely quite a fun game. If you don't know, WildStar was basically an MMORPG, but the battle system was kind of like Smite, you know, the MMO. Sorry, they're not quite MMOs, the MOBA. If you've played it, you play in like pseudo, you know, third person kind of, and then all the attacks are like telegraphed and you had to like dodge roll about the place and doing that sort of things. Even your healings were skill shots, etc, or area targeted area things. I cannot remember what class I played. I remember the most annoying thing, in my opinion, about any of these MMORPGs, if their races and classes are like restricted for some reason. Like I'm gonna be honest, I am a lore person, but I don't care about those lore reasons. I want to play with the race I want to play. I want to play as the class I want to play in any game, in any combination, you know. So the fact is, restriction was quite annoying. But I remember I played a robot class and they only had access to one of the healer roles, I think. I cannot remember which one. I think there were like 3 healers, but I don't know. I played a bit of Guild Wars 2. From what I remember, that one didn't have like healers in the traditional sense. But I don't really remember because I did not play much of Guild Wars 2. I played it for like a weekend, I think that was about it. What other MMORPGs have I played? I can't think. I never actually played Final Fantasy. Is it 15 or 14? I can't remember. Have I only spoken to one villager? That's actually crazy. I cannot remember which one is the MMO one, but I've not actually played that, surprisingly. I do think it looks interesting. Like, if there was any MMORPG I would play, I don't really have like the time for MMORPGs nowadays, but if there was one I was to play, I would play that Final Fantasy one. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not very crazy about most of the races. But it's a thing of MMORPG races. I like my weird and wacky and wonderful races. Unsurprisingly, I tend to like the anthropomorphic animal ones sometimes, but also I tend to like the weird ones, like the robot ones, etc., etc. But like, I don't play as a human in the RPG classes. If you want to, fair enough. Elves, I'm not interested in playing as an elf or a dwarf. You know, give me those weird and strange and wonderful classes. You know. Because I suppose that's just how I interface of fantasy, you know. It's how far from reality, I suppose, can I be detached, can I get. And if you don't play by way, that's totally fine, you know. No, who might stop you from playing a human in any sort of like high fantasy genre? Go for it, is what I say. But it's not for me personally. I just remember I was like, I'm not really all that interested in like any of the race choices in Final Fantasy 14. But I think the classes are pretty cool. They have like the white mage, which is just like the cleric, right? They have, I think, like a scholar. I think we have like astronomer as well, which would look like a really cool one. So I don't know. If I were to play a game, it would be that one, but I don't. So I think that basically brings up to date, I suppose, in MMORPGs. In class choices in general and tabletop, the first one I played was, amusingly, like going back to my roots, was a rogue. Because I played it in like a one shot with like pre-made characters. I just like looked at them, was like, I've never played this game before. I think I sat next to someone and I was like, I've never played this game before. Like, what sort of like class would you recommend? And he was just like, spellcasting can be quite difficult, I think, if you've never played before. And he's right, by the way. If you've never played like D&D before, I think a spellcasting class is kind of cool, but also, you know, it's not for everyone if you've never played before, because, you know, there's a lot of rules to learn, I suppose, in the first place of D&D, and learning all these different spells at the same time is also quite overwhelming, I'd say. But it's not, I mean, if you want to, don't let me stop you. Just sometimes, you know, it's nice to, if you're just getting your feet wet, I suppose, to get focused on like a certain aspect. So I played a rogue. I remember the rogue's name. In the one shot, their name was Cal, and then eventually, when we played again, I made him a tiefling, a rogue tiefling. But they weren't particularly edgy, weren't more very like subcultural, I guess. But they were like, how do I describe them? They were like, you know, they had like a teenage sort of attitude, but not like an edgy one where they were like, I'm cooler than you. They were just like, how can I look as cool as possible? They were trying way too hard to be cool. That's probably the way to describe it. Or if you want to use anime terms, they were chuni. And chunibyo. So yeah, and they were called Fate. That's what I remember. They were Arcane Trickster, Rogue Tiefling. I don't remember much else. Anyway, the other D&D things I played, I think I played like a bard like 3 times or something, which is weird to say. Mainly because the first time I played a different campaign with like some university friends. It didn't last too long. I don't even know if we made it to 3rd level, whatever. Like, I don't know. That one ended up dissolving eventually. But I played a bard who, in retrospect, looking back on it, she should have, that character, she should have definitely been a sorcerer. But we already had another sorcerer or a wizard. Like, but made no sense for a characterization to be a bard. So, you know, retroactively, in my mind, I've changed her to be a sorcerer, but still. And then I played a D&D session with, not a session, like a campaign with a few of my my current friends, my current circle of friends. I can't remember what level we got up to. 4, maybe? I don't really know, to be perfectly honest. No, that was good fun. I played the same bard, because I played the bard again, because I was just like, I want to actually, you know, like, play this glamour bard, because I really like playing with glamour bard. Like, I think that's the fun sort of fantasy, which I like to play with, because I like the social aspect, I suppose, of these tabletop RPG games, unsurprisingly so. Glamour bard sort of, like, exemplifies that to a certain degree, by sort of, like, really leaning into the role. So yeah, the first character, Lady Aravela. Her name was Aravela Miodastudif. The one who should have been a sorcerer was a glamour bard. But I don't even know if we made it to level 3 now I think about it. I think we made it to level 3 and then never had another session, which is very funny. And then we had Kiki the kobold, who also probably shouldn't have been a bard, but bard is more plausible, I'd say. She could have been a wizard, I think. And I think when I was playing, I was sort of very undecided over if I'd played a bard. I'd play her as a bard or a wizard. She was also a glamour bard, I think. Or was she a lore bard? I mean, maybe it would make more sense as a lore bard. I don't But anyway, this time round, I don't know necessarily what I'm going to play. The only thing, my stipulation was like, I want to play a charisma-based character, and immediately I was going to be like, I want to play a bard. But I saw glamour bard's not even an option, so I was like, okay, you know, I don't care that much about like lore, sword, or valor bard. I can't believe glamour bard's not an option, by the way. But I was like, I want to play a charisma-based character because my favorite part about these games is the social interaction. So that leaves, if I wasn't going to play bard, sorcerer, warlock, and paladin. I was like, you know what? Maybe I should give paladin a try. It's not normally something I would choose, you know. I immediately went like, maybe warlock could be fun, but I was like, no, you know what? Let's give something else a try, you know. Not like, I'm not going to go full on into playing fighter or barbarian because that's like quite, I suppose, disconnected from what I usually play. But, you know, I think paladin's a nice sort of sidestep into trying something new. So I'll let you know how that goes. That's probably what I'm going to play. I've thought a little bit about my character, but, you know, I'll fill you in with more details, I suppose, on the day of, well, actually not on the Sunday, probably on the Monday, because Sunday I'll record in the morning because we're going to be playing in the daytime. But for now, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Twitter, Discord down below. Hope you see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, probably the worst part for a jump cut, you know, just 5 seconds at the end here. Bye-bye for now. There you go. There's a proper goodbye. I hit stop recording way too early. Sorry.